So in the third world, when a lot of things were happening, our people, our ancestors, our elders, our parents, our uncles, etc., they were put down in the poverty line, right? And they were considered as less deserving. So poverty was associated deeply with them. They associated themselves with poverty as well. So they formed this bond of we are poor, or we deserve less, or we deserve to be paid less, and we're being programmed really to beg and to feel sufficient in that position of being poor. And somehow we have inherited that. So that has been passed down to us. And now in our modern age, we have inherited that and we're still living by those rules. Now, I'm inviting us to look into that and to see how we can move forward with that. Yeah. When we are growing up in poverty, when we are growing up in a society or in a third world where poverty is the norm, we develop a bond, or a trauma bond rather, to poverty. Now, in this session, I want to speak about poverty as the system and how we bond ourselves to it, and therefore kind of honor that contract or that bond between us and poverty by living up to the principles of poverty. Now, I describe poverty as the ability not to have resources, food mostly, shelter and clothing, basically not being able to meet one's basic needs, right? And basic survival needs. So that's when we are in poverty. And growing up in the third world, where almost everyone around me was poor, we don't feel that way when you are in the system, right? You don't feel poor when everyone else is just like you. You're just like everyone else. And therefore what we kind of take on to that lifestyle and honor it in our life. For example, in the third world that I grew up in South Africa, in the township, in the village, there was this notion of nobleness that was paired with being poor, especially when you put it in the context of religion, of faith, rather of Christianity, because that's what I've seen it with mostly. So there's this idea of it's noble to be poor, it's good to be poor, it's godly, or God somehow favors you when you don't have money, right? And growing up, that was very much communicated. So it was something that was said. It was something that I was hearing all the time in churches all around, around in the community, where whoever has money, they kind of, you get a weird vibe from them, like they are somehow selfish or bad people. Now, I don't really want to focus mostly on that, but rather, if you recognize that you have this poverty bond from the list that I'm about to do, then what? This is today's video. Number one, it will be if you did grow up in a poor setting, right? You didn't have much and you struggled to meet your day-to-day basic needs. And if you grew up to the same pattern, so if you now are grown up, but you're somehow in the same pattern, you also are struggling to meet your daily basic needs, right? Either maybe you're struggling with getting work that would pay you sufficient enough to be comfortable or to meet your daily needs, or you don't have employment, or you have your business and it's struggling to meet your daily needs, and it's been like that for a long time. It's not like it's a season, it's just been the pattern of your life since you moved from home. That means that system or that pattern is still carrying through in your life. So that's another way to see it. And if that is you, if you see that that is you, the number one thing, of course, is to acknowledge that state just as it is, and to recognize that you are having this poverty bond, right? And investigating one's philosophy regarding money and poverty is very important. Now, I'm not one who's against money or is for money. I just think money is necessity of life. I think material wise, money is the closest companionship you would have for your entire life. You will always have a relationship with that companionship. So money is just a need that we have now. Whether we place how much value on it, it's a personal thing. But I think what's mostly important is that we meet our daily needs for us to thrive. Because if we're not able to meet our needs, if we're not able to pay our bills, to pay our rent, to buy food, if we're not able to meet those basic needs, we're not going to be able to thrive in our life, right? So it directly jeopardizes our life. And it's very important to establish a relationship, or rather to be in a good posture with money. And it starts with understanding that you have the poverty bond, and to break away from that. Now, when we bonded to something, let's say you bonded, for example, to your partner, you came together and you decided to be one, and you are very much close and stuff. When you have to break up, there's a lot of things that you're gonna miss. Maybe some were bad, maybe some were good, but when that kind of bond breaks, something is lost, right? And you feel that. Similarly, although not the same, when we have bonds with systems or entities like poverty or wealth, and we know that they're not beneficial to us, right? Like poverty is not a beneficial thing. Breaking that bond will be very difficult, and you'll feel like you're losing something. For example, poverty bonds promote us to, when we get money, to spend money. It literally believes that we shouldn't have money, right? The whole aim of poverty is to be without money. So when we get money, we spend it immediately. It comes in, it goes out. And even if we would say we increase our money, we still increase ways to keep it moving. Whether it's spending it on the weekend, or buying, or rather having it as goods, like rather buying very expensive pair of shoes and rather walking on your money than like keeping it. And we take it, we make it into something else, but we don't want to have it as money. And that is like almost an unspoken contract to say, I will not keep money isn't in its state. I would rather celebrate with it, or bring something that will bring me a quick joy, or touch my. And there's nothing wrong with engaging in stuff that triggers our dopamine and stuff. It's okay to buy stuff that makes us happy, of course, but there is ways to reinvest our money that we have by keeping it in. And I think when we or what I've observed is that when we're having this bond to say, yes, I will be poor to honor this contract, or because everyone in my family was like that, or because it's godly, even though it's not conscious, it is kind of what we're saying, because then we honor it by not keeping the money. But once we realize that there is this sacred contract that was made by, we can even go back ancestrally. We now are in a different era, and we can have a different relationship with money. We can free ourselves from poverty bond, right? We can free ourselves from poverty mindset and start applying mindsets of the opposite, which is abundance, right? And abundance, I'm using abundance carefully rather than wealth, because we are also, because of this bond, we can't cope with the world with the word wealth. Wealthy is just like, oh no, I don't want to be wealthy, I just want to be fine. You hear people say that all the time. And I have friends and clients and people around me, that family that are not fully like out of the system and not wanting money, but they also like, I just don't want a lot, just want to suffer, basically. And I say, honestly, if you're not a monk, if you really want to be out of the system and you say you don't need money, then it's either you're going to be a monk or a nun or a sister, something like that, or a homeless person. And you even then you still have to make ways to, find money. But unless you're not those things, I don't see why you should suffer. I don't see why you should suffer to just meet your daily needs. I think it's worth having a better and a different relationship with money. And firstly, shedding traumas of poverty. And I know that I'm touching on the surface with this topic, and I do want to go a bit deeper on the poverty bond ancestrally when we're looking at it in that way. But I was feeling the call to have this discussion, or this topic this week, after a session I had with a young man who, no matter what, how successful he has his degrees and stuff, he still finds himself in the same pattern that his family had. Still finds himself running to just meet his daily means, which is something that I've seen a lot. Really, it's just the bond or the consequences of the oppression and all the things that had happened, is that we were bonded now to poverty, and somehow we're convinced that is good for us. Now, I am hoping with this video that you get to look into your life and see if this is you, and see if you somehow sabotage yourself and your money, and you always let it go. And if that is you, I would advise you to part ways with this trauma bond, and to watch part 2 of this video, where I'll be talking about, I'll do a little constellation model that you can do yourself using objects, where we can turn away from that bond and kind of move forward towards our own abundance. And yeah, keeping it very short today. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate each and every one of you for clicking in and subscribing. And yeah, so till we see each other on the next one.